All right. This is Bedtime Book for March 25th, Chapter 36, The Parting of the Ways. Dumbledore stood up. He stared down at Barty Crouch for a moment with disgust on his face. Then he raised his wand once more, and ropes flew out from them, ropes that twisted themselves around Barty Crouch, binding them tightly. He turned to Professor McGonagall. "Minerva, can I ask you to stand guard here while I take Harry upstairs?" "Of course," said Professor McGonagall. She looked slightly nauseous, as though she had just watched someone being sick. However, she drew out her wand and pointed it at Barty Crouch. Her hand was quite steady. "Severus," Dumbledore turned to Snape, "please tell Madame Pomfrey to come down here. We need to get Alistair Moody into the hospital wing. Then go down to the grounds, find Cornelius Fudge, and bring him up to the office. He will undoubtedly want to question Crouch himself. Tell him I will be in the hospital wing in half an hour's time if he needs me." Snape nodded silently and swept out of the room. "Harry," Dumbledore said gently. Harry got up and swayed again. The pain in his leg, which he had not noticed all the time he had been listening to Crouch, now returned in full measure. He also realized he was shaking. Dumbledore's grip on his arm gripped his arm and helped him out of the dark corridor. "I want you to come to my office first, Harry," he said quietly as they headed up the passageway. "Sirius is waiting for us there." Harry nodded. A kind of numbness and sense of complete unreality were upon him, but he did not care. He was even glad of it. He didn't want to think about anything that happened since they first touched the Triwizard Cup. He didn't want to examine the memories, fresh and sharp as photographs, which kept flashing across his mind. Mad-Eye Moody inside the trunk, Wormtail slumped on the ground, cradling the stump of an arm, Voldemort rising from the steaming cauldron, Cedric, dead. Cedric, asking to be returned to his parents. "Professor," Harry mumbled, "where are Mr. and Mrs. Diggory?" "They are with Professor Sprout," said Dumbledore. His voice, which had been so calm throughout the interrogation of Barty Crouch, shook very slightly for the first time. "She was the head of Cedric's house, and knew him best." They reached the stone gargoyle. Dumbledore gave the password, and it sprang aside, and he and Harry went up to the moving spiral staircase to the oak door. Dumbledore pushed it open. Sirius was standing there. His face was white and gaunt, as it had been since he escaped Azkaban. In one swift moment, he had crossed the room. "Harry, are you all right? I knew it. I knew something like this. What happened?" His hands shook as he helped Harry into the chair in front of the desk. "What happened?" he asked more urgently. Dumbledore began to tell Sirius everything Barty Crouch had said. Harry was only half listening. So tired, every bone in his body was aching. He wanted nothing more than to sit here, undisturbed, for hours and hours until he fell asleep and didn't have to think or feel any more. There was a soft rush of wings. Fawkes the Phoenix had left his perch, flown across the office, and landed on Harry's knee. "Hello, Fawkes," said Harry quietly. He stroked the Phoenix's beautiful scarlet and gold plumage. Fawkes blinked peacefully up at him. There was something comforting about this warm weight. Dumbledore had stopped talking. He sat down opposite of Harry, behind his desk. He was looking at Harry, who avoided his eyes. Dumbledore was going to question him. He was going to make Harry relive everything. "I need to know what happened before you touched the portkey in the maze, Harry," said Dumbledore. "We can leave that till morning, can't we, Dumbledore?" said Sirius harshly. He'd put a hand on Harry's shoulder. "Let him have a sleep. Let him rest." Harry felt a rush of gratitude towards Sirius, but Dumbledore took no notice of Sirius's words. He leaned forward towards Harry very unwillingly. Harry raised his head and looked into those blue eyes. If I thought I could help you, Dumbledore said gently, "by putting you into an enchanted sleep and allowing you to postpone the moment when you would have to think about what happened tonight, I would do it. But I know better. Numbing the pain for a while will make it worse when you finally feel it. You will have shown bravery beyond anything I could have expected of you. I ask you to demonstrate your courage one more time. I ask you to tell us what happened." The Phoenix left off one soft, quavering note. It shivered in the air, and Harry felt a drop of hot liquid slip down his throat into his stomach, warming him and strengthening him. He took a deep breath and began to tell him. As he spoke, visions of everything that had passed the night seemed to rise before his eyes. He saw the sparkling surface of the potion that had revived Voldemort. He saw the Death Eaters apparating between the graves around them. He saw Cedric's body lying on the ground beside them. Once or twice, Sirius had made a noise as though to say something. His hand was still tight on Harry's shoulder, but Dumbledore raised his hand to stop him, and Harry was glad of it. because it was easier to keep going now that he had started. It was even a relief. He felt as though something poisonous were being extracted from him. It was costing him every bit of determination he had to keep talking, yet he sensed that once he had finished, he would feel better. When Harry told of Wormtail piercing his arm with a dagger, however, Sirius let out a vehement exclamation, and Dumbledore stood up quickly and that Harry started. Dumbledore walked around the desk and told Harry to stretch out his arm. Harry showed them both the place where the robes were torn and cut beneath them. That's it for tonight. We'll do one more video for March 26th.